Hi there. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Happy Friday. Welcome to our live question and answer class, where I take your questions and we talk about American English pronunciation live each week. If you have a question, a word you'd like me to talk about, you can add that to the comments at any time, and I'll answer your questions. I really appreciate all of the support from my members and subscribers. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions you've had for our Word of the Day series, as well as in this weekly class. Hi, nice to see you. To start today, I'll talk a little bit about it's a new month, it's December. And so if you saw the thumbnail for this class, I was showing you how in the word December, we have second syllable stress. And the idea there is that even though we have the letter E in the first syllable of December, it's short and unstressed, and the stress comes on sem. So I might want to rewrite that letter E as an I sound, di, because it has this symbol in the IPA that lacks front I vowel, like in did and different. And then the letter C can be a little confusing because it says the S sound. So I might rewrite that with letter S, December. And then I might just put BR together here at the end because the burr is short and unstressed as well. In American English, I still need to make my R sound at the end of December, November, September, the other months of the year. So I'm still making my tight American but I'm not stressing it. I'm not holding it for a long time. So we want to just watch out for trying not to let it become an a schwa, like December, but rather December, but without saying December strongly. December. Lots of other words begin with the letters DE and also have the D sounds, like deceit, defend, etc. You can see in the dictionary where the stress falls and whether you're having the E saying its name, like E, if it's stressed, or the I, as in December, in the IPA symbols. So when you look up a word in the dictionary, it's going to show you one symbol for each sound. And of course, in spelling, we have sometimes multiple letters for one sound. And we don't always have one letter, one sound. That's called sound letter correspondence, one-to-one correspondence. And so in the dictionary, they'll show you each sound of the word. So it can be useful to learn how to read it. In December, for example, we would see the D, the I, the S sound, the sound, the the B, and the sound. And the point I was trying to make, the reason I was showing you is that they also mark the stress by putting a little line before the stress syllable. So I can look for what vowel sound is there, but I can also see da da da. It's going to have that short rhythm, da da da. I do have a number of videos about syllable stress. And of course, if you've been watching our Word of the Day videos or come into this class, you see that I often break it down and mark the syllable stress for you. But if you want to focus specifically on that, you can use the lessons on speechmodification.com, either in my online courses or in my free practice, to help you get used to finding the correct syllable stress, what happens with the vowel sounds in syllable stress, because oftentimes you can be pronouncing most of the sounds in the word correctly, and if the rhythm or the syllable stress is off, then it can be quite confusing to the listener to know what word you're saying. Okay, I see we have some questions. Hi, Isabel. Nice to see you. Zachariah wants to know the meaning of hot mess. It just it's used casually as slang to mean maybe someone who's under a lot of stress or things aren't going well. People use it for a variety of terms. It's meant to be somewhat humorous, like, oh, I didn't have my coffee this morning, so I'm a hot mess. And it can be somewhat derogatory when used to describe someone else, as though like they are not functioning well, they're making mistakes or errors, a wide range of things. So it can be about someone's emotional state or their general personality. Okay, We have a comment. I feel in the American accent, the consonant S has a lot of hiss or sizzle. I do it with much less hiss or power and it sounds more muffled. Well, what is the right way mouth position for the S consonant? So the placement for the S it's called alveolar. And basically that means my alveolar ridge is the kind of bumpy spot right behind my teeth. So when Americans make the S sound, the tongue is forward, but not touching the teeth. And there needs to be space around it for that friction, for that hissing sound that you're talking about to come out. It is a fricative sound. If I'm too far back, it starts to get into more of the sh sound, which also typically has a different lip position. So s is more forward, sh is more back. You can feel the S position if you try saying a T sound, for example. T, t. When I say the T, my tongue pushes on the alveolar ridge and then releases. When I say the S, it doesn't touch the alveolar ridge. It's just in that spot with air around it and air flowing. You can also try, for some people, refining your S sound. You might try doing a T sound and then your S sound. I often call this the long T sound. It's not a real sound, but it's a way of shaping your S. Or if I say, for example, the T, t, and then I try to make it as though I could hold the T, which I can't. T, t. So I'm adding kind of that S-like quality to my T. Sometimes with the S, if you have a difference on it, it may mean that the air is escaping off the sides and it might sound more like sh, sh, in which case you need to think about the air flowing forward straight out the mouth. I hope that helps you. I do have a video about S and S blends. It's more focused on putting them into words, but you might want to check that out for a little bit more detail. Thank you. So we have a request, contrast the A sound and the beginning of the I diphthong. How is the mouth position different? Great, another good mouth position question. So if we're looking at the vowel quadrangle, if we're looking at A, it's here in the front. So my front vowels that are lax are A, for example, bid, bed, bad. And my tongue is pretty much as forward as it can go. It's maybe even touching behind my lower teeth, and my jaw is pretty open. And then the I diphthong starts more centrally, so it's also open. I, and then we have our ah, our not hot vowel here more in the back. So if I'm saying ah, it's way in the back. I starts kind of with my tongue at the bottom, but more in the middle. And then my jaw closes and my tongue lifts and relaxes into the I. I do have a video about the overall position of the vowels that you might find helpful with example words like bid, bed, bad. And then for the I, it would be bide. That you can see on the vowel quadrangle. And by the way, if you aren't familiar with this, it's a great tool. It basically represents the front of the mouth, the top, the bottom, and the back. This is kind of central, this is high, and this is more open of vowels. So if you go to my vowels playlist, you can see a video where I show how that maps onto the mouth and what the tongue looks like for various vowel sounds. I am working on a new online course that's going through every sound in English, showing you the position, giving you words, giving you practice, and that'll be available, I'm hoping maybe by the end of the year on speechmodification.com. Otherwise, in early January, it should be completed. Thanks for that question. Queen Christine, thank you, Zakira. Let's see. We have a request for the word upholster. I did see your comment this week, but we'll cover it now, and then we won't have to go to it in our Word of the Day series. And if you'd like, we can also talk about upholstery, because you asked about the family of words with upholster. So upholster. The H is pretty much silent. Upholster. Upholster. I'm just checking the syllable stress. So it has second syllable stress, which means the up is pretty short and unstressed. It is just like the word up, same vowel sounds. Upholster. upholster. I think the difference is that the H being there means that the O kind of starts the stressed syllable. I'm not necessarily saying upholster. Yeah, I guess maybe I am. So maybe you can think about it as because that's the unstressed syllable. And then like the word pull, and then stir, the letter S says the T sound. That's just like the word stir, as in stirring a pot, upholster. But then when I say upholstery, again, it's a pole, and then my STRY all goes together. Upholstery. And this is an E sound, upholstery. Again, second syllable stress, upholster and upholstery. And then I think upholstered, if it's an ED, we just add a D sound to the upholster. Upholstered, an upholstered couch. Good request. Thank you. That's not something I would have thought of to cover. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Also, request, tell us about how to keep going in English language. So I'm thinking if you're just thinking about language learning or continuing to develop your English skills generally, of course, the best way to learn and improve in any language is to use it as much as you can. And sometimes it's hard to do that if you're not in a place where you're having to use it to communicate with people to get your needs met. But the more you expect yourself to use it, the more you try to speak with others, to have conversation, to just talk to yourself, describe what you're doing. The more you read in English, the more you listen to English, watch TV, challenge yourself to move some of your thinking and your everyday language into English. And it's very challenging at first, and it might slow you down, but typically the more you can immerse yourself in the language, the more you'll just naturally learn, because you'll realize you don't know how to say certain things, or if you're reading or listening, you don't know certain words or you don't understand certain things, then that forces you to do the learning and the growing. That's a great question. Thank you. Okay, so we have Isabel would like to have some help with the words puree. I had that on my to-do list as well, Isabel. Thank you for attending class, and we can cover it. So puree or puree. That accent mark tells us that the A syllable is stressed, which is helpful to know. And so we say it like pure. So there's a glide. It's like a y sound, you're pure. That's how we say the word pure, by the way. Sometimes people do more of a pure. But in puree, we kind of really lose that U quality. I would say it's just like puree. So I shouldn't have underlined the pure part because that's shorter. So puree. So I'm going to puree the beans for the hummus, the pureed vegetables, etc. Yeah, and then if we add pureed, we just add the D sound, pureed. Good request. We had some cooking words in our last members class, and one of the channel members challenged me with some cooking words, although I did look those up for you if you're watching today, Rose. Okay. Hi, Dana. She's asking, demonstrate a more relaxed or lazy what it sounds like when you don't intentionally put emphasis on it to make it clear, whether it's still distinct from Okay, so good question. I was actually just working on this because I'm working with a client who, for the person who was asking about I'm working on a client where we're working on the and the R, or the R, how that doesn't come from So here. And at any rate, that's a distraction. The and the both forward. So if I'm saying, I'll give you an example. If I say, that's what I have, my in have, that's what I have, is going to be open in the true ah position, because that word is stressed. That's what I have. Versus the ah in that might be a little more closed. That's what I have. That's what I have. In this case, because it's the start of the word, I think I was using maybe a slightly more relaxed ah for this one. But if I'm saying, I have to have that, lots of ahs, right? I have to have that. I have to have that. You can hear how in have to, I have to have that. My ah is much clearer in this stressed ah, but in have to, I have to, I have to. Maybe I have to. It is different than if I did it with an eh. I have to, I have to, I have to versus I have to. It's definitely still a little more open when it's the relaxed ah, but you're right, it does close a little bit. And then in things like I can do it, I can do it. It really is much more closed. So definitely it comes into play with can and can't. I can go there. I can't go there. I'm going to be much more clear in ah, like in the can't, and more reduced in the unstressed can. So hopefully that was enough examples with me trying to do it and also not trying to do it, where you could listen to this segment again and listen for some of those helping words, and how they tend to be more of that relaxed and reduced ah sound. Great question, Dana. I think that would be a good video to make, to give some examples of those, because that is definitely affects a lot of those helping words: have and has, that, can, an, etc., and a lot of those reductions that we naturally do in our fluent speech. Okay, so follow up: front, upper, and lower teeth. Do the front, upper, and lower teeth touch when making this sound? You do it with a slight gap. If I close them, I can make it, but I think in speech, in natural speech, I have a little gap there as well. Some people's tongue tip goes up, some people's tongue tip goes down. The S sound is a little bit variable depending on the shape of your mouth, the size of your tongue. But yeah, I think it's going to not sound as crisp and as clear if my teeth are touching. So typically a little bit of gap there is good. Another request, vowel request, contrasting the and the ah, but not the clear ah, the sound in core and lower versus the Okay. So the request is, we have the vowel like in good book, and we have the he's talking about not the ah, this ah, but this or, where it's marked in the dictionary with the ah and the r. I think of that as diphthong or, because we typically spell it with or. And to me, when I hear store or for, I'm hearing more of the o. I mean, not the diphthong o, but the first kind of o that most of us have, most languages have an o sound that's rounded. So or. If I said ah, r, that doesn't sound correct to me. So I don't really write it that way in the dictionary. I think they're usually trying to represent or, and I would just go with being a little bit more open. So if I'm doing like, let's do good and gore, or yeah, okay. Is much, my tongue is much higher and my jaw is much more closed. Is in the top part of the quadrangle here, and or is more central and gliding. So should, would, versus or, you can see my jaw opens more, and then it closes into the again, it's challenging, and there is a kind of continuum in vowel sounds and a variant. And maybe some people do more of an ah, r, but I don't. So yeah, I just think of the O sound when I think of words with or. All right, and then Dana's asking whether the vowel and the unstressed schwa are close. So, for example, buck and book, we have schwa. This is a stress schwa, and yeah, I mean, the closeness I think that you're hearing in something like the like above, the closeness, I mean, the laxness is the same. So both of these are lax vowels. But if I said this with an book, 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 the really does need that rounding. So I would say that would be one of the things that's different. And it's a little more closed. The is more central. My jaw is a little more closed, and it's further back too. Now, some of that, I'm probably biased in my description of it because I'm visualizing where they are, and you can't always feel that. And I think finding that kind of orientation and those anchor points for words that you're saying correctly, I think you're definitely tuning into the length of the vowel and the laxness of the vowel and that connection, Dana. So that's a good observation. Great. Okay, wonderful questions today. If you have a question you haven't asked it yet, feel free to put that in. Oh, I do see Halim has a few. Sorry, I missed you, Halim. He's asking about ventilation, ideology, and deny. So ventilation, I said it two ways, right? So when I was first reading yours, I said ventilation, which is a correct and acceptable way to say it, ventilation with an aspirated T. But then when I repeated myself, I said it more typical American way, ventilation, ventilation. So that NT often in American English gets reduced to more of an N, and it sounds like ven. Lay, stress on the lay, ventilation. And then my typical TION ending, ventilation or ventilation. So I can either do a light T, aspirated ventilation, or ventilation, either one. And then ideology, idea, third syllable stress. So we have the I diphthong, I, D, A, la, G. Ideology, and deny, second syllable stress. Deny, so just like we were talking about at the beginning, here's an example of a DE, unstressed in the first syllable, that sounds like D. And then the I, diphthong again, deny. So you can think about I, you might also write it like this, like the nigh in night, or nigh as in near. Less commonly used word, deny. Okay, thank you, Halim. Halim has a lot of words on my to-do list. You've made a lot of requests, and I am coming to them, but as you know, it's faster to come to class if you have an immediate need. But we will be covering your additional words as we proceed through the Word of the Day series. I'm hoping to be able to continue that for quite some time because it's been very popular and there have been a lot of wonderful requests. So thank you again for those of you who have made a request for that. Dana's asking, you're welcome, Dana. Yeah, let's look up your word. So she's talking about the word for Japanese graphic novels. And so I'm going to go to my favorite dictionary and check. That's a word that I've read and not really heard used. So I'm not 100% sure. So let's see. Yeah, okay. So it's saying in American English, manga. Let's listen. Let's see if it sounds on. Okay, it's not playing. So British, manga. American, manga. So we have our NG sound, mong, our ah vowel, and then our NG sound, mong, and then another G, ga. So sometimes the letters NG will just say an N in the middle, like singer, that we just have the NG sound, but in words like hunger or finger, we have an N plus a G. So manga is like that. And then the letter E, I should write the real word here. How do you spell it? I just looked it up. Oh, manga. The letter A, manga, says the G sound. The vowel schwa sound. So manga. Oh, was British. Manga in British, manga in American English. Thank you. Now I learned something new too. You always help me learn something new, Dana. Okay, we have for the U shape. Does your tongue form a bit of an U shape when pronouncing the TH sound? Like the sides are a bit higher up, so it's not completely flat. I think that depends on the following vowel. So just when I said think, I didn't feel any grooving in the tongue. If I say thought, maybe more so, because I'm going to go into the ah rounded vowel. So the TH, any consonant sound and any vowel sound really too, is co-articulated with the other sound. So when I'm saying think, if I said, for example, thin, then, than, my tongue shape is going to be slightly different for all of those THs. It's still going to be having that interdental position between the tongue, between the teeth, so that it can get that fricative sound, the th sound. But because I'm getting ready for the next vowel sound, the shape of the tongue, the rest of the tongue is moving into that vowel so that I can co-articulate. Another way I could feel that is if I'm saying like tooth, ooth, then you might still feel a little bit of that oo shape when you're going from oo to ooth. But if I say bath, I'm not going to feel that. I'm going to feel more that open tongue. So trying your TH in a lot of different words, or even without words like thi, thu, they, tha, tho, feel the different shapes of your tongue. It's going to be mostly about the vowel moving that tongue shape. The one consistent being the tip being in the same spot. Good question. Thank you. Isabella wants to know what online dictionaries I like. So my go-to online dictionary is the Oxford Learner's Dictionary. If you go to speechmodification.com, here's a good way to check. So this is oxfordlearnersdictionaries.com as a plural. But if you go to my website, speechmodification.com, you can look on my free practice area and go to the online practice free trial. It might actually be in a blog post as well, but you can just type in the search box here, type dictionary. And I have a lesson talking about using the online dictionary, a few of them, and I give you some links to online dictionaries I like. So I like the Oxford Learners because it has British and American English. I also like the Merriam-Webster's Learner's Dictionary for American English. It's useful to have a couple of go-tos because you may see some differences between them and you might find the symbols easier to read in one or the other. So the links for the dictionaries are here. And then I also now sometimes use just the Googling the pronunciation of a word, and Google has a pronunciation guide that you can play it back. And it also has the ability to test and practice, which is a good resource for hearing what patterns you might be making to help you correct those. So there's a wide variety of dictionaries. I think for any dictionary that you use, just look at the guide for the dictionary and read about what symbols they use so you know how to read the symbols, because they'll mark the pronunciation differently in different dictionaries. Okay, great. Wonderful class today. Thank you so much for your interesting questions. I enjoyed talking about answering about specific words, talking about different mouth positions for vowel sounds. Very intelligent questions today. Thanks so much. I'll be back again tomorrow with another Word of the Day class, as well as on Sunday, we'll have our Phrase of the Week, where we look at American English idioms and expressions. Channel members will have our members only class on Sunday, which will be a question and answer format, and I'll share some additional resources with you then. If you're not yet a channel member and you're interested in becoming one, you can click on the join button and read about our membership options. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, you might want to do that because then you can see when I've uploaded new videos and when I'm going to be live next. That'll just come onto your homepage. Thanks so much, everyone, for attending class today. It's wonderful to see you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. I'm Christine Dunbar from SpeechModification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. SpeechModification.com. Bye, guys. Thank you.